Hello, my friends. Katie Day with the Move Me to Texas team here with another episode of the Real Advice podcast. I am thrilled to welcome this week's guest. Starting out in new construction, he transitioned into real estate sales over 5 years ago and hit the ground running, forming a team very quickly and absolutely dominating in Indianapolis. He consistently uses video marketing to help sell his clients' homes and just crushes on social media. So I am excited to dig in with him. Please join me in welcoming Mike Feldman. How are you, man? What's going on?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for the intro. That was very kind of you. Excited to be here.
It's funny because your Instagram handle, like Mike Bond Real Estate, I think for the longest time I was thinking that your last name was Bond. And so when we were talking about you hopping on the podcast and like the thing popped up, like your email popped up, it was like Mike Feldman. I was like, who is this? And then I like dug in. I was like, oh no, I do know him. I do know him. So kudos to you on great branding. It has become your personality in my mind. So
yeah. I when I started the team about 2.5 years ago or so, there wasn't a single part of me that wanted to name it after me. For probably the same reasons why you didn't name your team after you. And yeah, there's some people who thought that was my last name, and then other people thought that, do I have this like weird obsession with James Bond? I just want to name a real estate team after him. But I just didn't want to tie my name to the team.
So where did it come from? Do you have a weird obsession with James Bond that we need to unpack today?
Not any more than any other normal guy. No, so there's
yes, so you do. Okay, got
it. So there's a couple different meanings behind it. It's to one meaning is to represent the bond that we facilitate between the buyer and the seller.
Okay.
And the bond that we create between the agent and the client.
Yeah.
And in financial terms, stocks and bonds, a bond is a bond is one of the more secure and predictable instruments to put your money in. And so when a consumer hires an agent from bond, I want them to know exactly what they're going to be getting and exactly what the outcome is going to be. And so there's a couple of different meanings behind it.
Yeah. That sounds like it was well thought out, not just like, man, I really like the last James Bond movie, so let's name our team that kind of thing.
No.
So
Yeah, before I started the team, I hired a branding guy and paid him way too much money to come up with to present all these names to me, and he came up with 20 or so different team names, and none of them really stuck. One day, Bond just kind of came to me. I was probably watching TV or a movie or something.
Yeah.
And it just kind of sat with me and just resonated.
Very cool. Well, sorry that the branding expert didn't come up with that for the amount of money that I'm sure you paid. But it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Lesson learned. Just watch, TNT late at night. What?
Yep.
So for people that may not know you, how did you get into new construction or into the real estate world before, getting into residential, and what kind of prompted that transition?
Yeah, so I was worked at a company called Angie's List. I think they might be in Houston.
Yeah, they're nationwide, I think.
Yeah, yep, they are. Was working there, just it was one of those jobs that I'd show up and make 100 phone calls and leave.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to get into new construction, and I always wanted to be a builder since I was a little kid. And the local builder that I worked for, they were hiring, and so I applied for a job. Went to work there for about 1.5 years or so. I was that guy that was in the model home, walk in and show them a couple of different floor plans, and these are the lots that are available. And did that for about 1.5 years, and for almost 1.5 years, I hated it. Because it was tough because you're so constrained in new construction. The average home price in that neighborhood was $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody came in with a $400,000 budget, which is a pretty decent budget here in Indiana, there's nothing I can do about it. Or if somebody had $1 million budget, nothing I can do about it. Unless they wanted to cut their budget in half, which most people want to.
After they've seen $1 million home, they're like, I don't want the $500,000 home.
Exactly, yeah. And I just, there are too many things that were outside of my control with new construction. So quit that, and a friend of mine just said I should try out real estate, this side of real estate, the retail side. And I shot her down a couple of times, and then she kept on pressing me. And finally I said, sure, I'll give it a shot. and joined a little mom and pop brokerage, and it just kind of took off from there. And that was about 8 years ago.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. It's interesting. So you wanted to like build homes, so you went to go work for a builder?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, like my dream was to be a custom home builder. Like
Okay.
I was like 10 years old, walking into Homoramas, which is, I'm sure pretty much, most markets have them, where it's like, 5 different builders build 5 different homes, and it's like a parade of homes sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to those as like a 10-year-old, and I would be talking to the builder, and I'd be critiquing his floor plan, and I'd be like
Hilarious.
critiquing,
Yeah.
you the material choices and things like that. And it's just always been a passion of mine. I'd be a 10-year-old kid, drawing houses on blank sheets of paper, like these
Yeah.
McMansions that
Yeah.
probably end up be like 25,000 square feet sort of thing. So that's what I wanted to do, but math was never my strong suit. And so, I know 3% of any number.
Hence the 25,000 square foot,
Yeah,
homes. You're like, no
yeah,
one's gonna buy this.
very realistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you 3% of any number, but other than that, I suck at math. And to get, to start building homes, you kind of have to be good at math. And so took my career a different direction, and then I saw an opportunity to get into building with the new construction builder.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got the job, and then just it took off from there.
For sure, for sure. It's just interesting to me to hear kind of how people get into real estate. I feel like most people from a young age aren't like, oh, I want to go be in the real
No,
estate realm or the real estate world. So like drawing homes and going to parade of homes and
yeah,
critiquing builders and stuff like that, like isn't generally something that I hear people as the foray and for them into this world. So that's kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
cool.
People usually get into real estate after their third, fourth, or fifth career,
Hmm. Hmm.
or they're bored with their life and they want to get into real estate, or they've failed at a previous career getting into real estate. So I mean, I would say not what 95% of people, like 95% of realtors,
Second
it's not
or
their first
more.
career.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you don't go to college to become a realtor.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
For sure.
the newest agent on my team, he just turned 22, and he's kind of the exception. He I think he did like a semester in college and just realized it wasn't for him. And I always think back, like, was it a good choice to go to college? Especially seeing, knowing that you don't have to go to college to become a successful realtor. Um, but the life skills that you learn in college, that's where I think where it was a good investment. You know,
Yeah.
I I didn't retain anything in college. I don't think most people don't, unless you're a lawyer or a doctor. Um, but like, yeah, college was and still is expensive, but it's those life skills and the connections that you make in college.
Yeah.
I think
That's
that's
what
what
I
makes it
was.
worth it.
Yeah, I would 1,000% agree. I think what I was gonna say, and then you just said it, is like the connections and the relationships and the people that
Mhm.
you meet. I think are kind of the progression and the stepping stones to your professional career and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And so,
Yep.
I mean, I went to grad school and got an MBA after having a career, a
Did
couple
you?
years of work. And someone was asking me the other day, they're like, "Oh, well, do you think that that was worth it or like helpful for you, in the real estate world?" And I was like, "No, not at all." But like I've met people, and I think that it gave me skills, but like I don't use what I learned in those classes in
Mhm.
my, application of whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But the time put in and the people I met and stuff like that, definitely worth it for sure.
Yeah. So your kid is it a boy or a girl?
She's a girl.
Girl. Okay. It's probably a weird question. I feel weird asking that question these days. Do you have a boy or a girl? But so if she's in high school and she says, "Mom, I want to become a realtor. Like I want to follow in your footsteps," would you tell her to go to college or not?
Um, I mean, I think that it's something that I would recommend doing again for the skills, but like I'd be like, you need to take an in-state school that's not, expensive. Like a public in-state school. And I mean, thank God
Yeah.
I'm in Texas. We have so many, universities and colleges. Because I went to a private school in Florida, and that, my parents should hate me for that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a little ways off for me. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts?
Man, it almost brings up the question of like, is traveling the world for a year, would that give you the same experience and the same life skills as going
Yeah.
to a 4-year college? And my oldest is 7 years old, so I've got another 10 years before we're visiting that conversation. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, again, I'd probably say go to college, but if she doesn't want to, and she has an idea of where she wants to like take her life, then no, like I'm of course going to say don't go to college. Then if it's not going to benefit you in the long run. But if she's still trying to figure it out, then I'd say go to college because that's where you know you start to figure out who you are
I
in
think
college.
part of what you said is super key. The if she knows what she wants to do and where she wants to go, right? Because if not, then it's like kind of I feel like a floating around for a little while trying to figure that out. And college is a great place to do that, where you're getting an education and meeting people and doing different things and getting life experience,
Hmm.
as opposed to like just doing random jobs until you find one that sticks, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Which
Yep.
at 18, I don't think that many people would have a full path forward of exactly what they want to do for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep. Totally agree.
cool. That was a fun
Nice
little
little
path we
tangent.
went down
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, so you got into real estate eight plus years ago. You started your team in like 2021 ish, right? A couple years ago.
Yeah. Yep. Just about that.
So what advice would you give to someone if they like when you because you can look back now and like there are things I'm sure you did well there. I'm sure there's things you're like, shit, I shouldn't have done that.
Hmm.
So looking back on that now, what advice would you give to someone if they were looking to start a team today?
Um, grow slow, grow on purpose. I went from so I was kind of the co-owner, co-leader of a former team, but even that team was small. It was myself, my business partner, one other agent, and an admin. Um, but when I started the new team, I started with full-time admin and three other agents, and two of those agents were basically brand new,
Okay.
and they're basically friends of mine. And so I was like,
Okay.
I'm starting this team. Come join, come start it with me.
Come do real estate.
Yeah. And I honestly think like it's all a learning lesson. It's all hindsight, but I think I just kind of grew too fast.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of glamorous things that, about real estate, and it looks glamorous to have a big team, or, to have multiple admins and buyer's agents and listing agents and all this stuff. But, um, I'd say just start with one great admin and then hit pause for however long it takes. And then once that admin's paying for themselves, and once you're at capacity, whether it's with buyers or sellers, it's probably buyers you're at capacity with. Then at that point, maybe bring on another agent. But um, I think so many people start teams for the sake of saying that they have a team, but not, but they basically start it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So but I'd say if you decide to start a team, start with one person at a time and grow slow.
Well, and I think that it's something that you need to know who you're hiring, right? And like if your friends are, some if that are they still with you or are they no longer with on
No,
the team?
no.
No. Okay.
Of the three original people that started the team with me, only one's with me. So,
Okay. Um what I was gonna say is I feel like a lot of people do that, right? You get into conversation, you're like, oh, well, like we enjoy hanging out. So like let's
mhm,
also do this. And so for us, we had a few of those type of hires, right? And then it's like, okay, well, now we really need to figure out like who's our agent avatar,
mhm,
what are we offering them, what are they bringing to the table too, kind of thing, right? Because it is a
mhm,
two street. And that was when we were then able to grow a lot more, and faster growth was fine because we knew what we were looking for. It wasn't just like, okay, hey, there's three agents that want to be on the team. I need three people because I have too many leads and let's do this. It was like,
mhm.
okay, we need three people, but you guys fit what we want. Let's do this.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, so it's always interesting because I feel like everyone has those issues. We hired an agent before we hired anyone else, and so we were
Oh,
still
yeah.
just all running around like crazy people with no help or admin support. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. There was an agent that I was talking to, that was just a few months ago. I think they're like 9 months into the industry, and they're already asking me how to start a team.
Yeah.
And they had a good handful of sales under their belt, but not enough to
Warrant.
to really pass on any leads. And again, they're only 9 months into the industry, so like they're still learning themselves. I mean, I'm 8 years into the industry. I'm still learning, just like you are.
Yeah.
Um,
I still feel like yeah.
yeah, but they're still learning the basics. And so I think that they're wanting to start a team just for the sake of saying, I have a team.
And yeah, I see that. What do you think would be the either appropriate amount of time or the appropriate amount of transactions or business to be able to warrant having a team? I know there's no like perfect answer. Like, oh, it's
Yeah.
been 18 months and 47 deals and now you're
Yeah.
ready, right? Like,
Yeah. I think it probably, there's definitely not a timestamp on it. Um, just like, in my first year of real estate, I sold 42 homes. And so in my second year, if somebody was like, I don't want to hire you because you've only been doing this for a year, I'd come back and say, yeah, but I have 3 times, 4 times as many transactions, under my belt as the
yeah,
average agent. Somebody's been in the industry for 20 years. They're, they might be doing less transactions than I am. So don't hire me based on my years of
time.
experience.
Yeah.
Hire me based on, transactional experience. Um, so that's a good question about what's the appropriate time to hire somebody. I mean, I would like to put a number on it. I'd probably say 30 or 40 transactions, within 1 year. Then at that point, look into starting a team. But when I say starting a team, hiring an admin, not
Yeah.
hiring agents.
Having that additional support to be able to focus more on, the conversations with clients and all that versus,
Yeah,
sitting and rereading a contract to make sure you're uploading it correctly into the
yeah,
company system or whatever.
yeah, yeah. And then also, of those 30 or 40 transactions, dissecting where they came from.
For
If it was
sure.
like one or two investors that gave you 50% of the transactions, all right, so you're kind of a blind squirrel that found a golden nut sort of thing. But if they're like 30 or 40 people that you met at open houses
For
and like the hustle,
yeah,
then you're onto something. But if those 30 or 40 transactions are from just a handful of sources, or like like just a couple
one
investors,
person.
yeah, then it's kind of an asterisk. It's probably not the right time to grow.
Yeah. So as far as lead sources go and things like that, what are your kind of maybe top 3 or 4 pillars that your team utilizes as far as leads go?
Yeah, so database is definitely number one,
Okay.
and database, that's Sphere and past clients, and referrals from Sphere and past clients. Um, I built my database in the beginning. Like the foundation of my business was from open houses. So
Okay.
I was doing
Hustling.
two, sometimes three open houses a weekend for a couple of years. Um, so then from there, I built my database, and now I'm not doing as many open houses.
Yeah.
I'm doing like one a month maybe. Um, but the clients who I'm working with right now, I either met them at an open house, or they're a referral from somebody that I met at
Yeah.
an open house. So database is definitely number one. Um, and social media is honestly probably number two.
So I want to rewind a little bit onto the thing that you said about open houses. And so you
Mhm,
said, hey, I built my business on open houses, and most people would be like, oh, well, I did an open house on Saturday from 12 to 2, every other week, right? But you were
mhm,
doing 3 in a weekend.
mhm.
So that was maybe doing one from, 10 to noonish or 1, and then doing one in the afternoon, and then doing one on Sunday, or what was your
Yeah, yeah. It'd be one on Saturday, and then one, or then two on Sunday,
2 on
typically.
Sunday?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like 12 to 2, and then 3 to 5 sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I feel like, I mean, that's not something that you always see. We have one agent on our team that really leaned into open houses, and they're successful for him, right? He's
Mhm,
he's great at talking to people, like he can calm anyone down type of person,
mhm.
right? And like when he first started, he was doing 3 or 4 open houses in a weekend.
Yeah.
And I know other agents were like, that's crazy, but like he's also sold more houses than them.
Yeah, and I think that there is an art to doing open houses. Most agents who don't like doing open houses don't like them because they just suck at them.
Mhm.
Because they're the type that show up 5 minutes before the open house starts.
Running around. Yeah,
Yeah, yep, and they're trying to sell that house and that's it. So if somebody comes in and they're not interested in that house, then they look at that person, like they look at that visitor as, as somebody that they failed essentially. Um, and I look at it as it's a vehicle to connect with people. That's it. If somebody walks through the door and they buy that house, then awesome. You're now the exception. But it's just an excuse to talk to more people,
for
whether
sure.
it's door knocking before and after, plus all the open house visitors, plus you can get content from it. Um, so I think that there definitely is an art to hosting a good open house. And the buzzword for years has been mega open house, but I've never done a mega open house. I just connect with people really well, ask them, good questions. Um, don't try to sell them that specific house, like right within a foot of them walking inside the door. Um, and I have good follow up.
Well, okay, and then you also mentioned potentially door knocking before or after the open house,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And then as okay, so good follow up. What would you constitute good follow up, or what do you coach your agents on your team as to how they should be following up with leads after an open house?
Have to follow up as soon as possible. So really,
Okay,
like as soon as the open house is over, um, you really have no excuse but to follow up. Right then and there.
and you
Um,
send them like a letter.
um, if I have their address or if I know their last name, I'll look up tax records and then send them a letter. Yeah,
Oh, okay. I was joking when I said that. That's
yeah.
hilarious. Okay, what
Um,
so what's your follow up plan?
yeah. So I'm a big fan of sending video messages, um, and just for all the reasons why you pour so much into your videos. And so yeah, so I'll text them a video message,
Okay,
and oftentimes I'll follow up with an email as well. And it's all like the same day, and
yeah,
it's really just wanting to set that next appointment. Assuming that they're not going to want to make an offer on that house. But I usually have a a dozen or so pocket listings that I'll kind of use those as a little bit of a carrot, saying I have some other upcoming listings that are similar to the house that we met at. So can we meet for coffee? And I'll kind of run a few of them by you to see if they're a good fit. But quick follow-up is key. And also, like, I'm a big fan of as soon as they leave the house, then take a couple quick notes about what you spoke about, something that
so key.
shows that you listen.
Yeah,
If they're, going from the open house to Chuck E. Cheese because little Johnny has a birthday party,
yeah,
mention, ask how Chuck E. Cheese was
yeah.
and just show something that humanizes you and um, that shows that you listen. And I think that even just one little nugget that you can share with them to show that you remembered, those little things go a really long way. So that's something that I coaching all my agents on.
That's so huge. The notes absolutely kill me. And then what happens is because most agents aren't following up same day. It's
Hmm.
like I'm doing an open house on Saturday, and then on Monday I'm coming into the office to do my follow ups, right? And like Mike's
Hmm.
already sent them a video message and talked to them about Johnny going to Chuck E. Cheese, and he already has the business. And I'm like hoping that they pick up the phone on Monday, and I only send them an
Hmm.
email. I don't do anything else. But
Yeah.
and I'm not. I'm saying I'm the stereotypical agent. I
Yeah.
wouldn't do that. I would also be sending the message, and I would be like, "Screw Mike's open house. You're working with me now." But
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm kidding. Maybe. No, but no, I think that that's huge. The notes I think are the most important thing. Jotting down anything you can, and realistically, for most open houses, it's not like it's we're not in 2021, right? So it's not like it's 15 people with a line out the door. You're going to
Hmm.
have some downtime. That's the
Hmm.
perfect opportunity, I think, to pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, Mike, it was great to meet you at the open house. Hope you guys had an awesome time at Chuck E. Cheese. You know, I'm going to email you over those disclosures that we talked about, and blah, 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 whatever."
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I can send that to you, at 3 p.m., the same day of the open house, then you're like, oh man, like no one else has followed up or sent me anything, and
Hmm.
Mike's the one doing it. So I'm a huge fan of the video text message.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite. things to, again, just build more trust and, put your face there for them to remember.
Yeah, because there's probably a good chance they went to multiple open houses
For
that
sure.
day. And I'm just looking for one thing to separate myself from the other, multiple agents that they met that same day. And a video
100%.
message is the easiest way to separate myself.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that the follow-up is amazing. I love your strategy and your thoughts
Yeah.
there. Um and the mindset around it too, I think
Hmm.
is also huge, right? As far as the amount of open houses that you did, I think how long did you work in new construction?
Year and a half
Okay. So I feel
at
like that
best.
was a really good foundation, right?
Yeah.
For you to be like, all right, I'm just going to go crush it on the weekends and
Hmm.
crush these open houses. Cause I feel like a lot of agents, when they get into this, most come from a 9 to 5 job. And so
Hmm.
they aren't huge on like, oh, I'm going to go crush the weekend. They want Friday, or they want Saturday and Sunday off.
Yeah.
Right. And like coming from new construction, that was kind of like the norm.
Yeah. Something that I think was probably the most valuable thing that I applied to open houses was in the first couple of years of my career, I'd um, be like an undercover buyer, and I'd go to other agents' open houses and
Yeah.
pose as a buyer. I can't do that, or I sounds cocky. I can't really do that as much these days because people want more people would recognize me than the first
Yeah.
couple of years. But I'd go in and see what agents did right and see what they did wrong, and then I'd take whatever I learned and apply that to my open house, or not apply it to my open house.
And so normally we try to give advice, right? As
Hmm.
far as this is what you should do and these are the right things to do. I know
Hmm.
what my answer is. But what's your thing that most agents do, but they shouldn't be doing when they go into it as an agent at an open house?
Wait, so you're talking about if I go into an open house like right
What's
now?
the thing? Yeah, what's the thing that like most agents are doing that you're just like you just want to like face palm?
Um, they word vomit.
Okay.
They rattle off all of the stats of the house without even asking me what's important to me in a house.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing
Uh,
you want to do is build rapport and
yeah,
understand what the buyer's looking for. Huge.
yeah. So when somebody walks into one of my open houses, I'll rattle off some pretty basic stats,
Yeah.
maybe
Three
three,
bedroom,
four.
two bath. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 3 or 4 bullet points, and that's it. But then I want to get to know them because again, statistically, they're not going to buy the house. Is
Yeah.
I think I saw somewhere that like 4% of houses sell as a result of the open house. Um, and so that like if you host the open house, assuming that the people who come through the open house aren't going to buy it, then it changes your mindset and changes your script. You know, sure, like I said, I'll write off a couple stats, but then I just want to get to know them
Yeah.
and find out what's important to them in a house and see if maybe this house fits some of their criteria. Um, and that's also where it becomes very beneficial to know the competitors, like the other competing houses in the area. So you can say, you know what, this house doesn't have X, Y, and Z that you're looking for, but this other house down the street does.
Yeah.
Do you want to schedule a showing to go take a look at it?
I'm done with this open house at 3 p.m. I can show you at 3:30 kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
The thing that I think most agents do, and you kind of said it but didn't say it directly, is I always feel like it's just like no one tries to add any value. I'm just
Hmm.
like, oh well, hey Mike, so are you working with a realtor? And you say no. And I'm like, okay, well I can send you properties. Do you want me to send you properties? And that's like the
Yeah.
only thing they have, right? And so you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, like you have obviously listings that you've potentially signed but aren't yet coming to market, right?
Hmm. Yep.
And then you know of other properties that maybe they want to sell or whatever, right? And so
Hmm.
like you have listings that don't exist that no one else knows about, right? And so
Yeah.
that's something that is of value. But like me setting an MLS search up for you and sending you the homes that are on the market isn't anything that they
Hmm.
don't already have set up. And
Yeah.
that's I feel like that's the biggest thing that people do at open houses that I'm just like, guys, like we got to step it up here.
Yeah. Yeah, like especially, you know, 1, 2, 3 years ago when the market was like super
Yeah.
hot. Um, like if you shared an off-market property with somebody, like with a buyer, then through their eyes, they now know of a property that theoretically nobody else knows about.
Yeah.
And so, A, that makes them feel special, but it also makes you look like an absolute rock star.
For sure. For sure.
And so that was, like, hey, that's one reason I network quite a bit with local agents.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to say I have an off market property. I'll often just say I know of upcoming properties. And so I kind of curate all of these, upcoming listings from other agents in my markets, combined with my own, upcoming listings. And now I have like this whole like secret MLS sort of thing. So I think that's been immensely powerful.
No, it's huge. The agent relationships, I think, are not frequently thought about, right?
Mhm.
But if you build those, it can definitely serve you well.
Yeah.
Because I know for both ways, like me looking for buyers, or if I have listings and someone else is looking in that area, I know that there's agents to call depending on the neighborhood
Mhm.
or area of town of like, hey, what
That's
do you have
huge.
coming
Yeah.
up? So
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah, like, especially in my hyper local market of, like, 3 neighborhoods or so, there's a
Yeah.
dozen there's a dozen agents or so that are doing 80% of the business.
Yeah.
So, if I have a buyer that's looking in the area and I don't have anything coming on the market, I'm calling all 12 of those other agents and seeing what they have coming on the market. Because again, if I can find one off market property, then I'm now the rock star and I've provided something to this buyer that most other agents can't provide. And that's something that like I'm constantly preaching to my agents, is what's something that's going to differentiate you from the other in my market, the other 8,000 realtors that they can choose from.
Yeah.
We can all do the same thing of setting up searches and opening up doors and all that stuff. And agents will say, hire me because I'm a trustworthy realtor and I'm an ethical realtor and I'm going to work hard for you and treat you like you're my only client. And I'm like, all right, that's what every single realtor can say.
Yeah.
But what not every other realtor can say is, I have access to off market properties,
Yeah.
and I actually follow through with it.
For sure. For sure. It is in your market now. Are y'all still under normal inventory levels, or are they starting to creep back up to like what would be considered a more normal market?
I mean, like we're at like 1.5 months of inventory right now. I think
Oh,
normal
so
is
still
more like,
pretty.
yeah, it's still very, very low.
So finding off market properties. Where I'm going with this is finding off market properties and having some of those listings that haven't yet come to market and stuff like that is huge still for
Mhm.
y'all.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even in my database, I probably have a couple dozen sellers who want to sell, but they just don't know where they're going to go.
Yeah.
But I still can kind of use their listing as leverage. I'm just going to prep the buyer saying you can't buy their house until they find out where they're going to go next.
That starts a pretty crazy chain of like, okay, well, they'll buy this one if they move, but then they need to find one and I can find them
Right.
one, but then, so
Yeah. Yep.
I've always heard of, but I've never had like the contingency on the contingency. Like I've only ever had like a 3 contingency sale.
Yeah.
But I know that they can get kind of crazy long depending
Yeah.
on how
I
many.
think I've only had a 2 contingency sale, and I think that's been the extent of mine. But yeah, I've heard of four or five contingencies.
Yeah, I would be
Sounds like a nightmare.
so anxiety ridden.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just popping Pepto-Bismol and Tums is like candy
Yep.
to
Exactly.
be, yeah. Because two and three is already like too much in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Too much happening.
Yeah. Yep. Totally agree. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna hit you with one last hard hitting question.
Okay.
It's the hardest question we ask here on the Real
Okay.
Advice Podcast. And it is, if it were your last meal on earth, what would you be eating?
Oh man. Um, Man, I would probably be eating chicken wings.
All right.
Um, I don't have there's a local place here in town that
Okay.
has like the best chicken wings. It says on their window like best chicken wings in Indy. And
Okay.
like every single restaurant probably has something like that, but these are actually the best chicken wings in Indy.
All
Um,
right.
so yeah, I'd probably do probably chicken wings, I'd say, with buffalo sauce, obviously. So
Obviously.
yeah. So what would be yours?
So my two favorite foods are steak and sushi. So it would be some combination of
Okay.
steak and sushi. Would
There's
be
a sushi roll I saw a couple of days ago. What was it? It was it was kind of inspired by a cheeseburger, but
okay. Interesting.
it sounded awful actually.
Okay.
Um,
There are a couple places here that do like wagyu like rolls and stuff. So like
okay,
steak, and stuff. Um I don't eat dairy, so like I probably wouldn't go for the cheeseburger roll.
okay, yeah.
But the only thing I ever really see on the cheeseburger slash Asian food front is like cheeseburger egg rolls, which I feel like anything that you wrap up and then deep
Oh yeah,
fry is gonna taste good. So like,
of
you
course,
know,
yeah,
those are okay.
yeah. I'm a big fan of appetizers. So if it was really up to me, I would just have appetizers for the rest of my life. And Southwest egg rolls, I could eat those for breakfast every single day. They're amazing.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
breakfast. I love it. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you being on today and sharing a little bit about your, team building and open house strategies and things like that. So very much appreciated. If someone doesn't follow you on social, where is the best place for them to find you?
Instagram is my main platform, and it's at Mike underscore bond real estate, all one word. Mike
Not to
underscore bond
be
real estate.
confused with his last name,
Yes,
which is not Bond.
it is not Mike Bond. No,
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you and look forward to chatting again sometime soon.
absolutely. Thank you so much for the invite. Really appreciate it.